April 1945. Somewhere near the western border of Germany. The war was ending, but for thousands of captured German soldiers, it wasn't over yet. They were marched in silence through muddy fields toward a temporary Allied processing camp. Most of them were exhausted. Some were wounded. A few were barely more than boys wearing oversized uniforms that had once belonged to older men. Among them was an 18-year-old private. No rank insignia, no weapon, no resistance, just a thin frame, and eyes that didn't stop moving. He kept looking over his shoulder as if expecting someone to follow him, even though the road behind them was empty except for 2 Allied trucks kicking up dust. When the prisoners were finally lined up for registration, an American medical orderly began the routine inspection process. Check for injuries, check for fever, check for lice, check for anything that might spread through the camp. Standard procedure. But when the orderly reached the young private, something was off immediately. The boy didn't step forward like the others. Instead, he hesitated. His hands were trembling. The orderly thought maybe it was shock. That wasn't unusual. Many prisoners reacted this way after capture. Some hadn't slept in days. "Step forward," the medic said calmly. The boy did. Slowly. Then, just before the stethoscope touched his chest, he leaned in slightly, close enough that none of the other prisoners could hear him, and in a quiet, almost broken voice, he whispered, "I'm infected." The medic froze. He pulled back slightly, unsure if he'd heard correctly. "What did you say?" The boy swallowed hard, looked around again, then repeated it, even softer this time. "I'm infected. Please don't touch me." For a moment, everything else in the tent seemed to disappear. No shouting, no footsteps, no clatter of equipment, just the sound of rain hitting the canvas roof overhead. The medic signaled to the guard behind him without saying a word. Within seconds, the young prisoner was quietly pulled out of line. No one else was told why. No announcement was made. But, as he was led toward the isolation section of the camp, the boy didn't resist, didn't ask questions, didn't try to explain. He simply kept repeating the same sentence under his breath, over and over again. "I'm infected. I'm infected." And, by the time the senior medical officer arrived, rumors had already begun to spread across the camp. The isolation tent was never meant to hold secrets. It was meant to hold risk. Any prisoner showing signs of illness, fever, coughing, unexplained fatigue, was sent there immediately. The war had already seen outbreaks spread through camps faster than gunfire ever could. One infected man could mean dozens more within days. So, when the young prisoner arrived, the atmosphere inside the tent changed. The senior medical officer, Captain Lewis, had already been informed that the boy had claimed to be infected. No other details were given. No symptoms listed. No visible injuries. Just that word. Infected. The boy sat on the edge of a wooden examination table, soaked uniform clinging to his shoulders. His boots left small pools of muddy water beneath him. He hadn't spoken since entering the tent. 2 guards remained near the entrance, not because they thought he was dangerous, but because no one knew what he might be carrying. Captain Lewis approached slowly. "How long have you been feeling unwell?" he asked calmly. The boy didn't answer. Instead, his eyes moved around the tent, studying the instruments laid out on the nearby tray. The thermometer, the pressure cuff, the surgical gloves. He seemed afraid of them. Lewis took the boy's wrist gently. Pulse elevated, but not dangerously so. Temperature normal. Breathing steady. No cough. No visible rash, no discoloration of the skin, nothing. The captain frowned slightly. "What exactly do you think you're infected with?" he asked. This time the boy responded, but not with a diagnosis. "They told us not to say anything," he muttered. Lewis paused. "Who told you that?" No answer. The boy's hands were shaking now. Lewis gestured to the medic beside him. "Let's proceed." The examination continued. Uniform removed, shirt lifted, bandages checked, and that's when they noticed it. A small, carefully wrapped cloth tied tightly around the boy's upper arm, hidden beneath the sleeve of his tunic. Not a field dressing, not a standard military bandage. Something improvised. Something recent. Lewis looked up at the guards, then back at the boy. "What's under this?" he asked. The boy's breathing changed immediately, faster now, shallower. "Please," he whispered again, "don't open it here." The captain didn't respond. He simply reached for the knot, and as the cloth slowly began to unravel, the medic beside him stepped back in silence. Because whatever they were about to see, this wasn't going to be routine. The cloth came loose slowly. Whoever had tied it knew exactly what they were doing. Layer after layer was wrapped with care, not rushed, not panicked, but deliberate, like someone had taken the time to make sure whatever was underneath stayed hidden and protected. Captain Lewis pulled the final strip free, and for a moment, no one spoke. There was no open wound, no infection in the way they had expected, no swelling, no discoloration, no signs of disease. Instead, pressed against the boy's upper arm, taped tightly to his skin beneath the bandage, was a small, folded oilskin packet, completely dry, completely intact. Lewis looked up. The boy's eyes were fixed on the floor now. "Please," he whispered again. They said not to let anyone touch it. The medic carefully removed the packet and placed it on the tray beside them. It was sealed with wax, not military issued. No markings, no unit stamp, nothing official. Lewis hesitated only for a second before breaking the seal. Inside was paper, thin, folded many times. He opened it slowly, careful not to tear the damp edges. At first, it didn't make sense. Rows of handwritten names, dates, short notes beside each one. Then symbols, simple ones, circles, lines, marks that looked like tally counts, and finally, a list at the bottom of the page. Lewis read it twice before realizing what he was looking at. Vaccination records, dozens of them, not for soldiers, for civilians, children. Each name matched with a date, and a location. Small towns, villages, places already overrun by the fighting weeks before. The boy finally spoke. "They didn't have time," he said quietly. "The doctor gave it to me when we left." Lewis looked up from the paper. "He said if I was captured, I had to tell you." The guards near the entrance exchanged glances. The medic leaned in. "This isn't infection data," he murmured. Lewis nodded slowly. "No." He folded the paper again, more carefully this time. "This is what they managed to save." Outside, the rain had stopped. But inside the isolation tent, the silence stayed. Because the boy hadn't been afraid of what he was carrying. He'd been afraid of losing it.